Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So I've made a handful of videos before about WNBA expansion, new year. There is some new news coming out within the last end of the year, 2024, moving forward into 2025 and 2026. So let's get into it. So there are 13 teams currently, 15 coming in 2026. So the league is looking to expand for a couple more teams in the next couple of years or so. It is 2025 now, 2 more teams next year, 2026. Probably if you're at 13 going to 15, you're probably trying to get to that 16 mark, so you have 8 and 8 in both conferences. That's just kind of what I'm kind of thinking what they're going for. So the map as of right now, Seattle Storm, the Valkyries is just the newest one that just was announced at the beginning play this year. So you basically got California covered. You got the Sparks, you got SoCal, NorCal, the Bay versus LA, Vegas Aces, very successful WNBA franchise. You got Phoenix, the Wings, the Lynx, Sky, Fever, Dream, Mystic, Liberty, and Sun. So Valkyries are pretty new, so that covers the Bay Area. I do know that if we go to future teams, Portland did get announced as a WNBA team. They announced that at the end of 2024. Portland did have an earlier version of a WNBA franchise, the Fire, which I do think this is a great choice because if you look at the map, you have a perfect pairing, Portland, Seattle. You have the Storm there. You kind of need a geographic rivalry. You need that market. Portland's very successful in terms of TV market in the Pacific Northwest. You have those two. You capture those markets, TV markets. You capture the Bay, Northern California, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose with this edition of the Valkyries. Announced 2024, I think end of early 2024, but beginning play 2025. So you basically had 12 teams, and then you got up to 13 with the Valkyries. You're going to have 14 with the Portland team, whatever that name will be. But this one I think is pretty cool. The Tempo, Toronto Tempo, which I think is actually kind of a cool name. So they'll be coming in 2026. So you get into that market of Canada, you get Toronto. I think you definitely have a lot of room to expand in the Northeast and even parts of the Eastern Midwest. I'm a fan of as many teams in the Northeast as possible. You could fit a team in Philly. I honestly think you could fit 1 or 2 more teams along the coast. A team in North Carolina, a team in Philly, or a team in North Carolina, and maybe, you could probably fit a Boston team in there. Like New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, Boston, you could definitely fit 3 teams in there. It might be a little tight, but you could definitely do it. So there's Toronto coming, Portland. You're kind of filling out the map. I think Denver's a great spot to expand to also. If you were to expand to Denver, you would pretty much fill out most of the western parts of the United States. You would have Seattle. You got the Portland team coming, 2 California teams, Aces, Mercury, Wings. If you fill in a Denver team, you can kind of fill out that entire west coast, western part of the United States. I think once you kind of do that, then you're going to kind of have to figure out some more filling in the eastern part of the United States. Like a team, the original WNBA franchises of Detroit, Cleveland, a team in the Carolinas, kind of fill out the East Coast, Atlanta, Carolina maybe, DC, Philly, or Boston even. But yeah, that's definitely a really good thing that they're expanding. So 13, so they have 12 at the moment. 13 is going to be the Valkyries in Golden State. 14 is going to be in Portland. 15 is going to be in Toronto. Let's look at that logo, actually. I think that's kind of cool. I think you can even just simplify that logo to just the basketball. I think that's kind of a cool logo. I'm not really sure about the whole color scheme, but I think it's cool. It kind of reminds me of the Pacers logo. The Indiana Pacers logo kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, so that's a good spot to expand to. Coca-Cola Coliseum. I think that said, 8,500? It's a pretty decent sized arena. You got to expand into Canada at some point, so I think that's a good one to kind of fill in. I think you could definitely expand to other spots. You already got Portland coming. You got Toronto coming. If you want to do 2 teams at once, maybe a Denver and Carolina, Colorado and Carolina team, a West and the East next round, but I think they're trying to get up to 16, it looks like, because they got 13 now with the Valkyries starting play. 14 in Portland, 15 in Toronto. You kind of get up to another 16. You would kind of have to divide it out, 8 and 8. So you got Storm, Valkyries. So Storm, Portland. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the Sky, Fever, Dream. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with Toronto. So then if you want to get to 8 on both sides, you would have to get another Eastern Conference team. Maybe that's a Detroit. Maybe that's a Carolina. Again, Boston, Philly would be a good spot. But that's just kind of how I think. You're trying to get up to an even number while expanding at a decent rate. So Portland, Toronto, and Golden State are the 3 that they're expanding to. Valkyries are coming into the league quicker in 2025. Portland and Toronto coming in 2026. So that's good. You capture more media markets. You capture more television eyeballs. And the more television eyeballs you bring in, the more revenue you bring in. And the more revenue you bring in, and the more pay that you pay to the players, organizations, WNBA as a whole. This is kind of what I've been talking about for a while. You talk about expansion. If you bring in an expansion team to bring in more TV eyeballs, TV eyeballs equals advertising revenue. Advertising revenue equals more pay to the players. So I think it's great. I love the fact that they're expanding. Valkyries, Portland's coming, Toronto's coming. I think to get up to 16, maybe even 18 or 20 is a good amount of teams to have, because the more teams you have and the more space you fill in on the map, the easier it is on travel expenses as well. So I think it just benefits in a lot of different areas for WNBA expansion. I think the league has a lot of room to grow. The W has a lot of opportunities. Players, teams, new teams, more teams. More teams equals more revenue equals better pay, and more pay for players. So I think it's just a win-win all the way around. So with that, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.